Thank you for tuning into Beast Watch News News Brief at the most current and comprehensive Bible prophecy website on the internet, beastwatchnews.com. All Bible prophecy news, all the time. Stay tuned for news. Israel was hit by 2 missiles from Syria on Thursday as the civil war there flared into the Golan Heights. The IDF said that a closed military zone was declared near the Kenitra border crossing in response to the fighting. People were not being allowed inside the area, and locals were warned not to work in the fields. Syrian rebels captured the border, and then the Syrian army took it back. The Syrian military is now threatening Israel following that border victory. The victory that was achieved at the hands of our brave soldiers sends a clear message to all those who are involved in the aggression against Syria, on top being the Zionist enemy and its agents in the region and tools on the ground. Our armed forces will remain ready to face any aggression against our dear homeland, read a statement from the General Command of the Syrian Army, which was issued on Wednesday, according to reporters. Israel says that Hezbollah is trying to open the new front on the Golan, and Austria is withdrawing its UN peacekeeping force from the Golan now in response to the fighting there. Netanyahu has signaled his readiness to consider the 2002 Arab peace plan. He says, "We are listening to every initiative. The Arab initiative has been mentioned, and we are prepared to discuss initiatives that are proposals and not edicts," he said in a speech to Parliament. The PA is asking Netanyahu to release 120 prisoners as a gesture to the PA for coming back to the peace table. Moshe Feiglin has been wondering how the Israeli government intends to deal with a recent agreement between the PA and Jordan awarding the Temple Mount its sovereignty. Agricultural Minister Yair Shamir yesterday responded on behalf of the government to a Knesset query from Moshe Feiglin on Wednesday, saying Israel and not the PA, Arabs, or the Jordanians have absolute sovereignty over Jerusalem and the Temple Mount. And Moshe Feiglin has taken another stand. All Likud B'Teinu MKs, except for Moshe Feiglin, symbolically voted in favor of Netanyahu's Knesset address on Thursday, where he reiterated his commitment to back up future peace with the PA with land concessions. Feiglin explained his decision, saying, "Though some may say these statements are not the PM's genuine intention and are only meant to placate the U.S., I must nonetheless oppose such official declarations of policy to surrender our heartland, as they may end up being viewed as an actual Israeli commitment by the international community." Abbas has said that there will be no peace without Jerusalem as the Palestinian capital, and he has also said that the Palestinians will never give up Jerusalem. The Arab news outlet Abna is reporting that Yehuda Glick of the Temple Institute and several others have met in regards to the Al-AQSA Mosque and what to do about the current status of Temple Mount. Israel has announced further construction in East Jerusalem. The housing units are beyond the Green Line and are located in the remote neighborhood. In November 2012, PM Benjamin Netanyahu authorized the construction of 3,000 units in the West Bank following the Palestinian Authority's successful effort to become a non-member observer state at the UN General Assembly. Channel 10 reported on Wednesday that Israel's Construction and Housing Ministry had begun marketing a development in the eastern Jerusalem neighborhood of Hilo, consisting of approximately 800 units. Saeb Erekat, the chief negotiator of the Palestinian Authority, lambasted the latest announcements as standing in the way of peaceful negotiations with Israel, which merited further discussion following John Kerry's push for resolution. The new Palestinian government will be unveiled today. Incoming Palestinian Prime Minister Rami Hamdallah said he would announce the composition of his government on Thursday evening, and he reiterated that his cabinet would govern only for a transitional period. Hamdallah also said that most ministers in the existing cabinet will retain their posts. A large contingent of U.S. Marine forces have landed in Aqaba to deploy along the Jordanian-Syrian border. According to Debka File, the force made its way north along the Aqaba-Jerash-Ajalon mountain road, bisecting Jordan from south to north under heavy Jordanian military escort. The sources disclosed that the American force numbered 1,000 troops, the largest to land in Jordan since the Syrian civil war erupted in March of 2012. Syrian forces have indeed overrun overrun the strategic town of Qusair, according to state media on Wednesday, after a blistering offensive spearheaded by thousands of fighters from Lebanon's Hezbollah movement. Such a major battlefield success for Bashar al-Assad's forces, if confirmed, would come as officials from Russia, the U.S., and the UN gathered in Geneva to work on a peace conference amid fresh allegations that the Damascus regime has used chemical weapons. The Syrian rebels attribute this victory to Hezbollah's support, and the UN has found a new level of brutality in Syria, with fresh suspected massacres, widespread rights violations, and the brutalization of children. It also says there are reasonable grounds to believe chemical weapons have been used by both President Bashar al-Assad's forces and the rebels. Iran is continuing to build its nuclear arsenal, according to Yuval Steinitz, Israel's Minister for Intelligence and Strategic Affairs. He warned yesterday that Iran doesn't want just an atomic bomb. It wants 20 to 30 bombs a year and hundreds of bombs within a decade. Under economic news, Obamacare is predicted to collapse under the weight of rising premiums. All that talk about affordable coverage for everyone under Obamacare is a complete lie, according to this report. Rather than expand coverage, Obamacare will actually end up shrinking coverage by forcing many people who already have affordable health insurance to drop their plans, and without these individuals paying into the system, there will be subsequently no premium reductions for the elderly either. Unfortunately, health insurance is a product, not a social vision, writes Douglas Hotz-Aiken for the Washington Times. What we know to be true, thanks to ample survey and analytic research, is that in 2014, Obamacare will cause insurance premiums to rise sharply for the healthy and the young. And Obamacare has now reached new heights in its unpopularity among Americans. The IRS has thrown two more of its staffers under the bus. Acting IRS Commissioner Daniel Werfer is placing two officials, including a top staffer implementing the health care law, on administrative leave for violating government ethics rules at a 2010 conference. The staffers received $1,100 in free food and other items at the conference, said the sources. The disciplinary move comes ahead of a hearing at the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee that will hear testimony. The IRS spent about $49 million on conferences between 2010 and 2012. According to Mike Adams of Natural News, the IRS is still targeting conservative groups even after promising the intimidation has already stopped. Eric Holder has admitted that things have gotten a little out of whack. The National Security Agency is secretly collecting all Verizon call data. A top-secret court order requires Verizon to hand over all call data to the government. Each day, millions of Americans have their call records seized without their knowledge, and without the National Security Agency needing to offer any evidence of wrongdoing, according to a scoop from the British Guardian. The data collected does not include the content of calls, but it does include all the information about the call, the numbers of both parties, their location, call duration, and so on. The order also prohibits Verizon from disclosing that they are passing this information to the government. The Bush administration was known to collect phone records on this scale and was widely criticized for its sweeping domestic surveillance. This is the first time, though, that evidence has emerged that this practice continues under Obama. The House talks on immigration reform are near collapse. The stumbling block is that the GOP insists that newly legalized workers should have no access to government-sponsored health care during their 15-year pathway to citizenship. Democrats say that these newly legalized immigrants should have access to health care because they will be paying taxes. The stalemate is not expected to be solved. This is a huge blow to immigration reform advocates because the House is likely to pass several smaller bills that address immigration reform, but that would not include a pathway to citizenship. Tropical storm Andrea is bearing down on the Florida coast today. Heavy rain is pouring across much of Florida as the first tropical storm of the Atlantic hurricane season headed toward the state's western coast, and a new tropical storm warning was issued for a swath of the U.S. East Coast. A 6.1 magnitude quake has struck off of the Solomon Islands, and it's on. Farmers are beginning to sue Monsanto over genetic pollution of wheat crops. The next wave of farmer backlash against Monsanto Monsanto has just been unleashed by Ernest Barnes, a wheat farmer in Morton County, Kansas. He filed suit this week in the U.S. District Court in Wichita, Kansas, alleging that Monsanto's genetic pollution has finally damaged himself and other farmers. Go online at beastwatchnews.com to get your non-GMO shopping guide in PDF form in order to protect yourself from this atrocity. And this is disgusting, abominable, and patooey. A New York high school has named a same-sex couple as the cutest in their yearbook, and a German court has granted gay unions a marriage tax break. This is Beastwatch News Daily Update. See these and other stories at beastwatchnews.com. Bible prophecy news every day except Shabbat.